There. All right, guys. So I'm always going to try to do the attendance the first 5 minutes of class just to make sure who's here, who I need to get a hold of to make sure they're on track for their classes. One thing that I need you guys to add is the Google Classroom. So you can access this by going to classroom.google.com. If you're not signed into your school account, make sure you're signed into your school account. So you have mine is already signed in here. And I need you to add this Algebra 2 class. So the classroom code is, you guys might want to write this down on your notes. The class code is right here. It's KSDVIGB. Now, the reason why I want you guys to add this is going to give you access to my phone number in case you guys need to send me a text like, hey, I'm going to be late for class or something, or I need help and I can't find an appointment. Is there any way we can do an appointment at some other time? Because sometimes I do leave certain blocks open for those to grade and things like that. So you can always shoot me a text there and we can figure something out. But the main thing is this Calendly appointment is how you're going to make most of your guys' appointments. So you click this. Let's say you didn't understand what happened in class today and you want an appointment for later on. You can click this. I still have 1:30 and 2:30 available. I don't know why it's saying 10:30 we're going to be in class. I need to figure out what's going on here because this should not show up. Or let's say you want tomorrow, you'll notice that 10 o'clock and 11, the morning times aren't there because that's when I teach pre-calculus and algebra 1. But 9 in the morning, 9:30 in the morning, those are available. It looks like some students have already taken up my first afternoon slots. So you'll be able to make appointments this way. Friday, I'm going to have the most amount of leeway. So that's when you're like, okay, I need to finish both of my modules because we're going to try to knock a module out a day. You're going to want to make an appointment then. That way we can catch you up with anything you might have not understood in class. It also has the remind, so make sure you're on my remind that way you can get the announcements. And you guys don't see it yet because this is the first video that we're making, but let me go to something like pre-calculus. Pre-calculus, let me move this to the top for them. Pre-calculus already has this YouTube playlist, and they have all the videos from all the classes just in case they missed it or they're getting ready for their post tests. We're already on unit 2 in pre-calculus. They can always go back here and start studying for their post tests. And they can skip. The reason why I chose YouTube is that way you guys can fast forward if you guys are like watching the video and you don't need to see all this information. You just skip over to, I know he talked about it at some point in time. I don't know when, but I know it's like after this. You can just skip to whatever part you guys want to skip to. And you guys can look at it on your phone as well. So that being said, all the videos will also be on here. So for example, this little bookmark thing lets them know that this is a resource. It's a material. You can either click the YouTube video there or click material. You can see the assignment here. What I want you guys to do for assignments, all the assignments there's no extra assignments on this. It's still only Adventum, is you literally just write down, hey, I did the assignment, and then I know to check your Adventum and grade it, and I can put your grades here. So for example, here someone hasn't done their mastery test, so then I know to contact you and your IS teacher and be like, hey, just give them a quick reminder, they haven't done their mastery test. Also, if you have the Google Classroom, it's really easy to join the class meeting. You just go to your Google Classroom because everything's on here. Click your meeting, and you're good to go. Any questions on that so far, guys? Cool. And as you guys start, what's up? I I am supposed to be sharing my screen. Thank you for bringing that up, Sammy. Thank you so much. Can you guys see it now? Can you guys see it? Cool. All right, guys. Sorry about that. I was totally supposed to be showing you all of. It's early. I don't know why everyone picked the morning for this class when they did the survey. Um, so this is what I was talking about. So when you go to your Google Class, so go to classroom.google.com. You want to type this link in, this KSDVIGB. I should have invited everyone in this class. So everyone here should have an invitation. So make sure you're checking your student emails and accept that invitation. So far we have 1, 2, 3 people, 4. I know there's more of you guys out there. I can see it because I took roll right now. Um, and as you guys are doing it, I'm going to start unhighlighting your name on the attendance sheet. So you can see here that names are highlighted unless you've already added the class of Google Classroom. This lets me keep up with you guys and help you guys know, like, hey, what can I do to help you when you guys are working on this? So if you guys haven't been assigned the class yet on Edmentum, shoot me an email. I'm going to review that today, whoever doesn't have the class yet. And then I'm going to create my own class. Just like all the other teachers have their own class, I have one as well. I think I added some people that I haven't added anyone yet. So I think because no one was accepting the invitation to the class. So make sure you're on the Google Classroom so I can figure that out for you guys. And then once you're on there, you're on my radar. I can figure out what I can do for you guys to help you do better and keep up class wise. So let's get into the section today. It's paced to be one module a day. So every day we're going to try to get through one module. If you guys need extra help, make sure to make an appointment with me, and then we'll get through that. But the pacing guide's right here. So for those of you who might be ahead, let's say you're already on unit 2, you're on the second module. You're like, okay, so I know to get to class on September 3rd. So that's when I know to come back to class. Other than that, just keep in place with the class. Every time we have a class, your assignment is going to be due the next day. So, for example, today I'm going to ask you guys to have your mastery test done tomorrow by midnight. And you can see the way I signed homework. Like, let's say, where's geometry? Classwork. So, for geometry, they had an assignment. It was due on midnight. Where's the due date? Oh, due this at midnight. I always do it 1 minute before midnight. That way there's no confusion. It's like I said I wanted to do before class. So since today's Tuesday, next class is Thursday. That means I don't want you guys rushing it Thursday morning. If you haven't done it, that's different. But I always do my deadlines at midnight. That way, when I wake up, I can see who has done their work and who hasn't done their work. And that just keeps you guys on my radar, so I know, like, hey, this person might need some help or something. Let me go back to Algebra 2. So later on, you'll see materials, you'll see due dates. Right now, it's still a fresh class, so you're not going to see any of that. I'm probably going to start posting the material after lunch, because it does take a while for these YouTube videos to load. Like, for example, I just finished geometry and their YouTube video barely uploaded. So I'm going to upload this sometime after lunch. All right. And let's get into the actual Edmentum now. Does anyone have any questions so far? You guys good? Everybody awake? No? All right. All right. I got a thumbs up from it. Cool. I know it's pretty early, guys. Feel free to, like I said, talk in the chat. Think of it like gamers on YouTube. They have their action, they still have their chat on the side. That's basically how I'm kind of running this. Thank you guys for letting me know you're awake. I'm like, I know I'm boring, but I'm like, you guys falling asleep within the 10 minutes kind of like hurts my feelings a little bit. All right. So let's get into the actual class itself. So I'm assuming you guys already know how to use Edmentum. If you guys are still having problems, let me know. I actually do have some resources out there. Um, I'm not sure if your teachers have sent this, but I do. I have made some of the OFL distance learning videos on YouTube for you guys. So how to access Edmentum, like how to use your student email, how to get your Gmail and student account on your phone. Any, I've done some of them. So if you guys do have problems, let me know, and I can try to make another video about it, or I can just help you personally just to get you over that hurdle. So let's go over this. So we're gonna go over the rules of radicals. So keep in mind, guys, I'm gonna go over the tutorial, but it's up to you guys to do the application and the mastery test on your own. If you guys need help, again, make an appointment with me. So let's get into rules and exponents. So any video, guys, I'm not gonna play them, especially these videos, because this is just a little Ferris wheel intro video. One thing that I do recommend you guys do, oh, for some reason it doesn't do it. Usually it gives you an objective. For some reason, Algebra 2 doesn't give us an objective. So when we're looking at this, oh, there we go. There's our objective. In this activity, we will study how to apply the rules of exponents and rational numbers. So rational numbers, guys, think ratio. That's just talking about fractions. So we're talking about rational numbers. That's all we're talking about. We're talking about fractions. So let's review the rules. So if we remember what exponents are, it's just saying we're multiplying whatever's in the parentheses that many times. So if I turn on my pen, let me turn on my pen here real quick. Turn that off. If I have something like -2 in the parentheses to the third power, this is -2 times -2 times -2. Sorry about my bad writing, guys. This is different than if I said 2 to the third power. The reason being is this is 2 times 2 times 2. There is no negative. The negative is outside, so that's not being affected by the parentheses. The next rule is if we're multiplying two exponents together, that just means we're going to add these powers together. And I know you guys probably covered this a lot in your, if you did the packets and stuff, but it is a nice little review for you guys to remember what exponents are. If we're multiplying something in the exponent, because exponents are multiplication, that means we can distribute it. This is different than if we had something like this. You do not distribute this. This, let me make this a 2. This is not the same as this. The reason being, we'll go over it a lot more in this class, is because this is supposed to be a plus b times a plus b, which when we use the distributive property, that's going to do some changes. That's going to change it up. We're going to end up with a squared plus 2ab plus b squared. And we'll talk about how I got this later. Right now, I just have this memorized. So just keep that in mind, that this only works when you're multiplying. It doesn't work when you have this addition in the middle. All right, and then here's the rule. So I recommend when you guys are taking notes, write this down. So for example, if we're dividing, that means we're subtracting. If we're multiplying, that means we're adding. If there's an exponent to an exponent, that means we multiply the exponents. So it's basically just the rules of when we can distribute, when we multiply exponents, when we add the exponents, when we subtract the exponents. And this one I think is basically just a copy of this. Division and multiplication are the same, so that means we can distribute. But when we're talking about addition, subtraction, we cannot distribute those. Does Is everyone understanding it so far? Oh, you guys are my most liveliest class yet. Cool. And again, guys, you guys just have to say yes or no. If you guys have a question, feel free to ask. Like when Sammy pointed out that I didn't have my screen on, that was a big help. That would have been really hard for you guys to understand had you not done that. So one of these ideas here is whenever we divide, this idea of 4 over 3 to the fourth, this is just 1. That makes sense because we're dividing by the same thing. But this is going to teach us that anything to the 0 power is 1. Because remember, from that last rule, if we're dividing, that means we're subtracting. That means that's 1. So it's easy for us to see why this is 1, but sometimes we forget that this is also 1. It's the same thing, same lesson. So here they're explaining it, that it's the same thing because we are subtracting it. So again, they're saying that as long as A is not 0, as long as our base, this number at the bottom, we call this our base. We call our exponent also our power. Exponent, however you guys want to call it, power, exponent, whatever you guys want to call it. As long as our base is not 0, when we have an exponent of 0, everything is going to be 1, no matter what it is. And it's saying that if something's on the bottom, that just means our exponent is negative. So this is another rule. Negative exponents mean it's on the bottom, which again makes sense because let's say we had something like, I don't know, n to the power of 6 divided by n to the power of 7. This turns into 1 over n. And that makes sense because if we do this, n 6 minus 7, we get n to the minus 1. So that's what's happening here. Is this making sense so far? Cool. And now they're going to talk about these. Cool. So now they're going to talk about these. Basically, whenever you guys are doing exponents, it's nice and simple. Just focus on if you're just doing coefficients, in other words, the numbers in front of your variables, just focus on that. So what's 4 divided by 8 divided by 4? Sorry. That's 2. If we're doing, now we're going to focus on the A's. So I'm going to erase this. If we focus on the A's now, we're doing this A to the 3 minus, I can't see that power anymore, minus negative 3, negative 1, minus negative 1. So this becomes A to the positive 4. Then we're going to focus on our B's. Our B's are B minus 5 minus 2. So we end up getting B to the negative 7. But we know a negative goes at the bottom. So that means we have B to the 7 on the bottom. And then they're probably going to show you the work right here, simplified a lot faster. So moving on. Now it wants us to do this. We're going to be able to do this in the equation editor. So once we get to the lesson activities, I'll show you guys how to do that. But we're going to solve this the same way we solved that other one. 9 divided by 3, that's just a 3. a2 minus 3 because we have a negative 3 at the bottom, or we can just say it's 3 minus 3. That's going to be a to the minus 1. So far we have 3 with an a on the bottom. Then we have our next one is b4 minus negative 3. Negative and negative make a positive. B to the 7. And it's a positive, so this goes on the top. So when you guys are entering this in, when you guys do the tutorial yourselves, I don't think I mentioned it, guys, but I don't recommend doing the tutorials as I'm doing it because I do try to go a little faster, and I don't want you. I'd rather you guys take notes than have you guys struggle catching up. And if you guys want that extra attention to get your activities done, again, just make an appointment with me, and I'll be happy to do that for you. But right now, I kind of want to just get this done. If you guys have questions, that's a different story. You feel free to ask all the questions you want right now. That's the whole point of this. So if I'm doing this, click done, and it says my answer is correct. So moving on. Oof. Now they're doing it, but now they're doing it with 3 different things. So I'm going to do all of these separately. I'm going to do my coefficients first. Then I'm going to do my x's separate, my y's after that, and then my z's after that. So how many times does 5 go into 15? 5 going into 15, that's going to be a 3. And feel free to show your work on a separate sheet of paper, guys. That's perfectly fine. I'll even show you guys how to take pictures of your work and upload them to Admentum in a bit. So then we're going to do x2 minus 3 because we have a 2 on the top, so it's positive. We have a 3 on the bottom, so it's negative to the negative 1. Now, since it's negative, that means it goes to the bottom. And then we're going to do y 10 minus 4. That means this is y to the 6. And then we're going to get to the z. So we have z y minus 10. That's just going to be negative 3. The way I like to think of these guys, I know I'm going really fast, I'm sorry. You guys can always type to slow down, or if you don't understand how I got a number, that's fine. Or if you guys want to go like, I can understand it now, but I know later I'm going to forget, that's what the YouTube videos are going to be for. So here, I like to think of it as I have negative 10, but I'm taking away this positive 7 because I have all of these negatives, and then I'm going to cross out all those negative 7 times, but I'm still going to be left with these 3 negatives at the end. I know the picture isn't accurate. I'm just trying to do it really fast. So in other words, I get z to the negative 3, which means I have z to the 3 on the bottom. So when I'm adding this in, I'm going to do a fraction first. 3y, the y has a power of 6. Go down to the bottom, x, z, but z has a power of 3. Done. Tells me my answer is correct. Perfect. And again, guys, you can always rewatch this if you guys are like, well, I want to get the answer because I know we did it in class. Rewatch it, rewind to that part, and follow along again. All right. So again, now it's going through the rules. Another rule they have is this rule of fractions. Fractions are interesting because fractions, the denominator is always the root. So if we have a square root, there's kind of like this invisible 2 here. So if I said x to the 1/2, what I'm really saying is, what's the square root of x? Or like they have over here, they're saying 8 cubed to the 4th power. So what they're really saying is, what's the 4th root, 4 on the outside, and the 3's on top. The 3 is going to be our exponent. So that's what this is. This little 2, there's an invisible 2 right there. That's all fractions are when it comes to exponents. let's see. So the 1/2, the base. One thing that they're doing, they're making this seem really fast. I'm not a big fan of how they're doing this. They're kind of going through it really fast. What they're saying is if we take 16, we can do 2 divided by 8, cross out the 16. Oh, 8, that's just 2 divided by 4. We can cross out this 8. This is 2, 2. So in other words, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4 times 2 to the fourth power is equal to 16. So they're doing this pretty fast, guys. But another easy way of thinking about this is we have these pair of 4 times 4. It's a pair of 4s. I think of this as a house, and this used to be funnier when we weren't doing the whole COVID-19. But these guys are a couple, and those couples want to go outside. Right now, it feels like everybody wants to go outside, but those couples stay outside. If we had anything left over, they would stay inside. They're single, they're going to stay indoors. All right. So, and then this one, they're just explaining how the negative makes it a fraction. Other than that, oh, first they're multiplying. So we're combining rules here. We're going to multiply these together. So this 3 times negative 2/3. Well, if I'm multiplying this out, I can just cross cancel these. But let's pretend I didn't know I could cross cancel those. I'm at negative 6/3. This is negative 2. With that being said, that's how they got this thing. And since it's a negative, that means it's going to go downstairs. Negative things are going to go downstairs. They're going to be the denominator. Is everything making sense so far, guys? Am I going too fast for you? Is it at a good pace? Yes, no, maybe? Cool. As long as it's making sense. All right, so then they kind of want you to do the activity here. Yeah, that's great. Cool. So let's say we're doing this here. So again, remember, division means we can multiply across. So if we're dividing, this is kind of similar to this idea here. We're dividing, that means we're going to distribute that power. Same thing here. So they're showing us how they're doing it. So the benefit of this exercise is just the idea that it'll show us here. So again, we're distributing because we're multiplying. So if I look here, here's where we're multiplying and distributing. So I was a little confused with this one because it's exponent to a power, but we have two things being multiplied in here. So we can use this step first. Next one, we have a negative. Negative means it goes towards the bottom. That's going to go with this one. This one is the one I was confused with before, but this makes sense. There's only one variable in here. So I'm going to go in here. This one we have two variables that are being multiplied, same base, which means we add those up. They're fractions, so it's a little harder. They kind of go into here on how to add fractions. Here, we're dividing, same base, they're both z, so we're going to subtract. I don't know why I said try again, I just slipped. All right, so that's all we're doing here for these rules. So these rules are very important. Make sure you write this down. That way when you take the mastery test, I can guarantee you they're going to test us on these rules. Because guess what? They've been literally showing it for every single slide. And here they're showing it a little more complicated. We'll get into these later. But basically all they're doing is they're doing the rule of distributing it. And then they're going to be doing multiplication because that distributing means we multiply. Then we combine them together. What they did, they kind of like put all the x's together and then they put the y's together and that'll let them subtract. And then they're going to do some fraction stuff. So if you guys have trouble with fractions, let me know, and we can spend some time on it during an appointment or something. Let me delete my work here. So here, they're just again stating these rules. So you guys have to know these rules. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. If you guys don't know these rules, you're going to have a hard time. So here, they want us to distribute this 1/3. 1/3, saying something times 1/3 is the same thing as saying divided by. Like, what's 1/3 of 9? Oh, a third of 9 is just dividing by 3. So if we think about it that way, and we combine it with this rule of multiplying, we're saying, what's 1/3 of 6? Well, 1/3 of 6 is 6 divided by 3, which is 2. So that part's right so far. This should be -3. So we got that part right so far. That should be -1. So that's right. Oh, it looks like the first one worked out. Let me see why the other ones won't work. That works. That works. So the problem here with this one is they didn't distribute it to the bottom also. So we're not just doing this rule. We have to make sure we're also doing this rule. So this is a combination of both of those rules. So our answer, click the correct answer. So there we go. All right, so now we're gonna get down to this one. So finish simplifying it. So they were nice enough to start all the work for us right here. They're just like, simplify this. Well, this is good so far. The only thing we're missing is making this go to the bottom. So we're gonna make a fraction. We're gonna do that y. And it's gonna be to the power of 5. And it's gonna be a positive 5 because at the bottom got rid of that negative. Try again. Oh, I forgot my 3. Forget how picky the computers are. But I guess that's isn't being picky. I just forgot to type in a big part of it. It's not just x, it's x to the power 3. So there we go. Is it making sense, everybody? Yes, no, maybe? Cool. Thanks, guys. Cool. So this next one, first rule we're going to do is we're going to want to distribute this -2. Notice how only the top is in parentheses. That means we're not going to distribute to the bottom. This one, we're only going to distribute to these. So after I distribute, what ends up happening is I get x to the -4, y, it's a negative times a negative, y to the positive 4, and w to the -2. After I distribute that 1, what I'm going to get, -1, I'm going to get x to the positive 2, y, and then this is w to the -3. This is y to the -1. So now when I do this, I'm going to use that rule where I subtract. So I'm going to do x. I'm going to do all my x's first. X to the -4. The 2 is on the bottom, so we're going to subtract that 2 because it's on the bottom. I'm going to do my y's. So y is 4 minus -1. Make sure you put the -1. We're subtracting because it's on the bottom. We're putting the -1 because it was negative on the bottom. Then we're going to do, I'll do it in green. W minus 2 minus -3. Now what this means is, let's get to this. I did orange. So -4 minus 2, x to the -6. That means we're going to have x to the 6 on the bottom because it's negative. 2 minus -1, that's the same thing, or sorry, 4 minus -1, that's the same thing as 4 plus 1. That's going to be a 5. So what we're going to do here is we're going to get x to the 5. And then here we have 2 plus 3. Negative, negative makes positive. So we get a w just by itself because 3 take away 2 is just 1. So now we're ready to enter this into our, I guess, our answer space here. So we're going to do x, use this little power to the power of 5, w by itself, nothing else needed, and, oh, this was supposed to be a y. I can't even read my own writing, guys. I'm sorry. I can't imagine how you guys are doing. And then x to the power of 6. Cool. So I'm going to complete that. So the answer is correct. Then I can move on. So we're going to do some more of these. I'm going to try to do this real quick. So this is the cube root of 8. I already have this memorized, guys. I know that this is 2. Then we're going to do x to the 2/3, 5 to, or sorry, y. Got ahead of myself, going too fast. Y to the 5/3. Now I'm going to distribute this to the bottom. So I have x to the 2/3. And then I also have y to the 2/3. So if I do this, I notice that these two are the same. So that just makes a giant 1. Or I can just say they cancel each other out. This next one, so we have 2, and then we have y to the 5/3 minus 2/3. Well, since they're both thirds, this just ends up being y to the 3/3, which is the same thing as just y, because it's y to the 1. So all of this complicated stuff right here to just get to y. And again, guys, I know I did that one fast, so feel free to like rewind once I put this up on the Google Classroom. Again, here's a summary of all the rules. And every time you see this summary thing, just remember it's probably going to be on the mastery test, and it might even be on the post test. To complete the following, we're going to click the arrow to move forward. Which arrow is it talking? Is it literally just talking about this arrow? Okay. So more practice, guys. I like practice. It gets you guys used to it, especially since we're going to be doing those practices on our own. So -6 divided by 3, that's going to be -2. And then we have, so I'm going to erase that part. Moving on to the a's. Now I have a to the -3 minus 3. This is -2, a to the -6. Now I'm going to move on to the b's. So this is b to the 6 minus 7. So this is b to the -1. One thing that's important, guys, is this negative, it's an actual negative. It's not a negative in the top. Sometimes I've seen students where they get all wrapped up in the negatives and they're like, oh, a negative. That means it goes to the bottom. That's not the case here. So that one stays on the top. The A goes to the bottom and the B goes to the bottom. We could put the 1, but when we type it in here, they don't care about that 1. -2, A up 6, and just a B. Is this making sense, everybody? Again, I apologize. I'm going fast. It's just I'm looking at the time and I'm like, oh, I got like 9 slides left to go. So sorry if I'm going too fast. All right, so now we're going to do this one. So again, always do these separately. So I have this -12 divided by -6. Negative divided by a negative is a positive. So I know I'm going to get a +2. I'm going to erase this because there's just very little room there. I'm going to move over to red. So I have this x to the 4 minus 6 because the 6 is at the bottom. Gonna switch over to green. So I get y to the negative 8 minus negative 6. Sorry about that, guys. I know kind of overlapping there. Which turns this to a plus 6. So it's negative 8 plus 6. So when we look at this down here, x to the negative 2. 4 take away 6. Negative 2. 8 plus 6. Negative 8 plus 6. Once these cancel out, we're still left with two negatives. So this becomes y to the negative 2. So now, when I write this down, I have a 2 on the top. On the bottom, I have x to the 2. And I have y to the 2 on the bottom. Go to my little mouse mode. 2. I use the little arrow on my keyboard to go to the bottom. X, click on this. 2. Hit the arrow so I'm no longer in the exponent. Y, 2. Moving on to the next one. So they're doing a lot of practice for you guys. So that's one thing that's really good here because that way we're able to practice this together. So we're going to distribute to all of them, not just the top, not just the bottom. We're distributing to all of these because it's all in the parentheses. It'd be different if some was in the parentheses and the other one. So again, 1/3, just think of it as divide by 3. Because we're multiplying by 1 and then dividing by 3. Well, multiplying by 1 doesn't even matter. It's the same thing. So we're just going to divide by 3. So we have a to the negative 3. And then the bottom's going to be a to the positive 3. We'll see why it's technically a negative later. B to the 6 divided by 3 is 2. 9. Negative 9 divided by 3 is negative 3. Now we're going to focus on these one at a time. So we have a to the minus 3 minus 3. Because it's at the bottom, that's why I said it's going to be a minus 3. When I do the orange, we have b to the 2 minus, because it's at the bottom, negative 3. So that's going to turn this to a positive. So it becomes b to the 5 on the top. And then this is a to the negative 6. So that's a to the 6 on the bottom. So when we type this in, type in our fraction first. We're going to type in b power 5, arrow, arrow, a power 6. And we're good to go. Number 20. We're going to distribute. So 1/2 is kind of like 1/3, except now instead of dividing by 3, we're dividing by 2. So we have x, negative 6 divided by 2, negative 3. Y, 2 divided by 2, that's just a 1. I'll put a 1 there. I don't like putting in the final answer, but if you guys want it while you're showing your work, go for it. Negative 8 divided by 2, x to the negative 4. Y to the 4th divided by 2, that's y2. Now we can do these one at a time. So if you guys took geometry on Edmentum, I know a lot of you guys took it on the packets. They have a lot of like practice and stuff on geometry, but when it comes to algebra, it's a lot of just showing your work or practice with algebra. Geometry, it's understanding the concepts, but this one you'll notice there's a lot more of like practice problems, which is good because that way you guys get the practice in. So again, I'm subtracting there's a double negative here because it's on the bottom and it's negative. So in other words, when you have a negative at the bottom, it'll go to the top. But I'm just going to write it like this for now. So because there's more positives than there are negatives, I know this is going to be x to the 1. And this one, there's more negatives than there are positives, so this would be x to the minus 1. So in other words, when I write this down as my final answer, this becomes x over y. Sorry, guys. I know it's like a long thing of me just doing problems. Is the whole thing just problems from now on? Oh, cool. So the whole thing's just going to be problems from now on. Where did I leave off? I just finished. I did the divided by 3. Did I leave off on this one, guys? Sorry, I like skipped too far ahead. What slide was I on? 19 or 20? Actually, I think I might have been further back. Do you guys remember what slide I left off on? You can type it in the chat if you remember. I'm pretty sure I did 20, 20. Okay, cool. Thanks. All right, so I'm going to be dividing by 3. So I get x to the minus 1, divide by 3, y to the minus 1, divide this by 3. I get x to the 2, y to the 3. So when I do this individually, I end up getting x minus 1 minus 2. And then the other one's going to be y minus 1 minus 3 because they're at the bottom. So here's an interesting thing. They're all going to be negative. This is an x to the negative 3, and this is y to the negative 4. So what we do here when there's nothing on the top anymore, we're going to have a 1 as a placeholder. In other words, we have like an x to the 0 on top. We have to have that placeholder on top. So this becomes x power of 3, y power of 4. And that's how we're doing for this one. So that one I try again. 3, 4. Did I do something wrong? Let me start over. X to the negative 3, x to the negative 2. It's x to the negative 1. That makes sense. And then this one is y to the negative 1. Oh, y to the 1. Oops. This was supposed to be a 2. I don't know what happened there. I'll probably watch the YouTube video later and be like, oh, duh, that's how that happened. Oh, wait. That's a negative. Oh, there's no double negative here. Okay, so yeah, that should be a 2. There we go. No, the exponents are wrong. What is going on here? Why are you yelling at me, Admentum? Minus 3. Minus 3. 2. 3. Minus 2. X to the 5. Oh, x to the 5. Y to the 6. Why do I feel like I had that before? Yeah, there it is, 5 and 6. I think you guys said something in chat. Are you going to set the Adventum class after lunch? Yes, Brianna, I will set the Adventum class after lunch. If your teachers haven't given you the class yet, I will assign it for you after lunch. That's a good question. Thank you. Thanks for reminding me. Yes, I will definitely have that done after lunch. So by like, yeah, I'll do it by 1 o'clock. You guys should have it done. I should have enough time to set it before lunch. All right, so I'm going to distribute this -1. That's a good question. Thank you for asking. 5. And then this is z to the -4. So this one's nice and simple because all it's doing is changing the signs. This one's going to change the signs and multiply it by 5. So it's a little harder, but not too bad. 4 times 5 is 20. 2 times 5 is 10. And these are all negative, so they're all becoming positives, it looks like. 15. So now I have x5 minus 20, x to the -15, y. This is going to be -5 because it's 5 take away 10, so it's -5. And then this one is positive because we have -4 minus -15. So this is going to be z. It's going to end up being 11. So the only one that's positive is the z. So the z goes on top with a power of 11. X to the 15, 12, 15. And y to the power of 5. That should be good to go. What is wrong with you? X to 11, negative, negative. Yeah, that's 11. The exponent for z is wrong. -4. Oh, it's a positive. I don't know why I put a negative there. I'm so sorry, guys. So this becomes -19. I don't know how I got that negative. Put a 1 for a placeholder again. It's a 19, not an 11, because I accidentally made a negative. So pay close attention to your negatives, because as you see, they even get me sometimes. All right, and then how many are left? There's a couple of these left. I should be able to do it in time. This is the one that's not the one we just did. Oh, these change. I did not realize that these change. So there are going to be different problems for you guys, but do you guys feel comfortable with exponents now? Do you guys want me to do a couple more, or do you guys think you got it? Just tell me if more or you're good. You're good? Cool. All right. So, Brianna, I'll make sure to add that event class. Let me start recording.